I wanted to show you some things about the conflict conversation essay that is due this week. I'm showing you the instructions. First of all, be sure to read the instructions carefully. I think one thing that students tend to neglect to do is to read all of the instructions, and that's where they tend to lose some of the points. So make sure that you do read those instructions. First of all, you're going to have a conversation with another person, either resolving a conflict or having a conversation about something with which you disagree. It is important that this conversation takes place within the time span of this course. This cannot be a conversation you had 3 months ago or a year ago. You cannot refer to a previous conversation you've had months ago. It does need to take place within the last 4 weeks. All right. Some important rules. It does tell you if you do use a previous conversation from months ago, you end up losing 50 points. So please make sure that you use a current conversation. Make sure that you don't use something that is contentious. You're not supposed to start a fight. So please use something that is meaningful so that you can have a good conversation, but is not contentious. All right. First thing, you are going to format your paper. So you are going to use headings. Notice right here at the top, use the bolded items below for the headings for your paper. So number one, here are the bolded items. We have the word conflict. So for the first section, you're going to describe the conflict in that part of the essay and use the word conflict for the heading. Here's the next heading. What steps did you take to resolve the conflict? And here is your final heading, the third part of the essay, learned about communication. I'm just going to talk about these three parts of the essay very briefly. The conflict, sometimes with students, this tends to become the biggest part of the paper. It's what they write about the most. And actually, it's what I care about the least. So you can mention the conflict, briefly tell what the conflict is. For example, I had a conversation with my husband and we were going to decide where the family would go for our family vacation. He wanted to go to Oregon. I wanted to go to Utah. We had this conversation to resolve this conflict. That's all you need to say about the conflict. I do not need to hear all about it and all the ins and outs and how that went. Very briefly describe the conflict. Notice that word briefly. All right, the steps that you took to resolve the conflict. Notice here that it says specifically, so lots of detail about using the skills. Again, don't dwell on the conflict. The detail needs to be about how you use the skills learned in the class. And then it says choose 2 of the following skills. You can choose the speaker listener technique, or you can choose one of the Gottman skills, for example, resisting some of the 4 horsemen. You can use soft startup, manage flooding, repair attempt. And again, in this section, use a lot of detail. Don't just say we use the speaker listener technique and then go on and talk about the conflict. Really talk about using the speaker listener technique. Talk about how you let your spouse talk, and while they were talking that you used what kind of body language, that you used good eye contact, that you refrained from speaking, that you wanted to interrupt, but you didn't. When it was your turn to talk, what did you do? What tone of voice did you use? What did you notice your spouse doing when you were talking? So really provide that kind of detail. And then what did you learn? Notice this, about communication, not what did you learn about the conflict, not that you learned, hey, there's a lot more to do in Oregon than there is in Utah. That's what I learned. So we decided to take our vacation in Oregon. No, what did you learn about communication? And share that, okay? Share those learnings. Now, keep in mind, this is only a 1.5 page paper. So again, you're going to provide this detail, but do it in a concise way. All right, so effective writing, I can write a paragraph about using the speaker listener technique without going on for 3 pages. So concise, but detailed. So, and make sure that you follow this formatting, double spacing, 1-inch margins, 12-point Times New Roman font. Okay, and then submit it by Saturday night. Make sure that you do have that turned in on time, and the rubric is here for you to check. You can see all of the ways that you're going to earn points. You can also see, if you are not completing everything, what those point totals would be. Good luck working on this. It's a worthwhile exercise. You are demonstrating knowledge of the skills you've learned in the class, and now you're going to demonstrate knowledge of the application of those skills. Have a great week and a great time working on this assignment.